trying to beat him in the jury box. But the truth is, this case is built on two things. It's built on a liar, a professional liar, and a whore. And I use that as a biblical term because she's accepted money for sex. But you've got the liar now who's actually whoring himself out, selling merch and propaganda based upon the trial. And you've got the whore who's actually become the liar. I mean, this whole case in and of itself flies in the face of our very...
Harris Faulkner was taken aback by that former Oklahoma House Speaker calling Stormy Daniels a whore out of frustration over his Messiah having to face his actions. But she wasn't startled when she and Kennedy did the same thing.
Number one, the judge sounds like a perv because he wants her to talk in lurid detail, and he's asking her to speak more slowly. That's gross. Number two, let's say the transaction did take place. I'm talking about the physical one. Her being surprised that she was going to a hotel room alone with a man to have body congress is like Pete Sampras being surprised at being invited to a tennis court and you want to see his serve. And then he says, I started shaking when I saw a tennis racket. I didn't know what to do with it. It's like, bro, you've won 17 majors. And, it's this woman saying that she blacked out because she was so nervous is like a surgeon saying he barfed at the sight of blood. It's a little hard to believe.
It's very hard to believe because that's what she got paid to do on film. I mean, it wasn't even like she was used to doing it in the corners of darkness. She was having sex in front of many cameras.
Well lit.
When you have to resort to name-calling over a criminal trial based off of evidence, it might be a sign that MAGA is worried about Trump losing in court. The whole point of disparaging the woman that Trump chose to sleep with, pay off to avoid it hurting his presidential campaign, and then fraudulently altering business records to cover up that payment is trying to get people to avoid the whore and somehow cozy up to the guy that paid her. So if she's a whore, what does that make the honorable former president? Everything in his desperate defender says is an attempt to change the subject or shift the responsibility to anyone else.
The crime that they are accusing President Trump of is falsification of business records. But I think everybody knows he is not the bookkeeper for his company. President Trump is innocent of these charges. And again, anyone with common sense can understand what is happening here. In the midst of all this nonsense and corruption, they have placed a ridiculous and unprecedented gag order on President Trump. They are overriding his constitutional right to defend himself from political smears from his harshest critics at the most important time. He is soon to be officially the nominee of one of the major parties in our country, running for president. And they have him tied up here in this ridiculous prosecution that is not about justice. It's all about politics, and everybody can see that.
Notice how Mike Johnson has not only adopted a comfortable position at Trump's feet, but also his tactic of saying, everybody knows this, or anyone with common sense knows, and using it like a legitimate factual conclusion when it's still just his opinion. Well, just because you say something like, anyone with a brain knows that the earth is flat, it doesn't suddenly mean that it's true. It just silences people that are willing to conform to your opinion, no matter how obviously wrong it is. And MAGA's been told to listen to Speaker Johnson because he told them that he's virtuous.
I want to tell all my colleagues here what I told the Republicans in that room last night. I don't believe there are any coincidences in a matter like this. I believe that Scripture, the Bible, is very clear that God is the one that raises up those in authority. He raised up each of you, all of us. And I believe that God has ordained and allowed each one of us to be brought here for this specific moment in this time. This is my belief. I believe that each one of us has a huge responsibility today to use the gifts that God has given us to serve the extraordinary people of this great country, and they deserve it.
When you add that you're God-fearing, the point is to shut down all criticism, or else you're criticizing God. I'm just a godlike figure that believes God chose me to be in an authoritative position, so if you don't agree with me, God hates you. It's as cringeworthy as trying to give yourself a nickname, like Moses. What, me? I thought I was only going to be Moses' right-hand man. You mean I'm Moses? Just call me Humble Moses as I kneel to everything Trump tells me to do. The promotional tour is real.
Congratulations on that interview.
Thank you.
What
it
was
was an
he
honor.
like?
The words kind, joyful, humble don't often characterize politicians that I've encountered. They do for Mike Johnson. There's chaos on the Hill. A lot needs to be done, but he had such calm in his demeanor. I really believe he thinks God is leading the way. This will all get figured out. And he is, I believe, here for an Esther-like moment for such a time as this.
For such a time as this. Our country needs that, right?
He's gone from being Moses to representing an Esther-like moment where he can lead us out of the chaos that he and his party created. It's weird that Moses/Esther is so calm and kind that his belief that God is leading the way resulted in him bowing to Marjorie Taylor Greene after she threatened to somehow take away his position that God granted him. None of this bullshit makes any sense. It's just creating a public persona of a politician that's simply acting in the best interests of himself and his political allies. All the talk about God is their shield from criticism over their actions.
Someone asked me today in the media, they said, it's curious, people are curious, what does Mike Johnson think about any issue under the sun? I said, well, go pick up a Bible off your shelf and read it. That's my worldview.
When asked for his worldview, when Mike Johnson became Speaker of the House, nobody knew anything about him. He said, you want to know my worldview? Go read the Bible. That's what I stand for. And now, today, Joe, he's down at the courthouse in Lower Manhattan defending the guy who's on trial for allegedly paying off a porn star for the alleged affair he had while his wife was home with their infant son.
I guess God works in mysterious ways, like how Moses forgets that God made him Speaker of the House and he does the bidding of a guy that doesn't know the first thing about religious doctrine or how to speak to a Christian church.
I love everybody in that room. You've been special to me. And, it's just a place that I just like the people. For whatever reason, I don't know why the hell I like the people, but I do.
I get the feeling that church's tax-exempt status should be reviewed since it's working as an extension of one particular candidate and their party. They can prove me wrong after they invite Hunter Biden to speak while putting his father on the phone to cuss out the congregation, too. But the Biden camp can only put out ads to highlight the obvious game that MAGA is playing with Christians.
All Americans need a Bible in their home, and I have many. It's my favorite book.
The forceful removal of peaceful protesters to clear the way for the president to hold a photo op at St. John's Church.
2 Corinthians, right? 2 Corinthians 3:17. That's the whole ball game.
A verse that you like?
I don't want to do that.
You're an Old Testament guy or a New Testament guy?
Probably equal. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the... We love God, and we have to protect anything that is pro-God.